cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Does Chopper need a coffee?
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Good morning and welcome to Sunday with Michael Portillo. In his journal, the American poet Henry Wadsworth Longfellow describes May as a perfumed word. It means youth, love, song, and all that is beautiful in life. On this first Sunday of the month, I shall do my best with each of those within my limitations. It's being reported that Labour's ruling body is not inclined to block the Mayor of Greater Manchester from becoming a parliamentary candidate. Is Andy Burnham going to return to the House of Commons? My panel will discuss. Sir Keir Starmer seems to think that there may be a case for banning some pro-Palestinian protests, owing to the cumulative effect that they may have on the Jewish community. Is he right? Oil prices hit their highest level since 2022 this week, with Iran and the United States continuing to exchange threats over blockades and attacks. With UK borrowing costs hitting their highest level since the 2008 financial crisis, how resilient are our economy and our energy supplies to the impacts of war? And as King Charles and Queen Camilla return to Britain following their United States state visit, how stands the once-called special relationship? And how did His Majesty handle President Trump's comments about Iran? Royal expert Pandora Forsyth will explain all of that and much more. But first, your latest news headlines from Bethany Elsey.
Michael, thank you. Good morning. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 1 minute past 11. The Prime Minister is urging his party to be more united and not repeat the same mistake as the Conservatives by descending into what he calls political infighting. It comes amid speculation his rivals are plotting a leadership challenge. It's reported Labour loyalists on the ruling body, the NEC, are no longer prepared to block Andy Burnham from returning to Parliament. The Greater Manchester Mayor was stopped from running in the Gorton and Denton by-election in February. It's also reported several MPs are prepared to step aside and trigger a by-election, which could pave the way for his return. It's reported former Royal Marines and veterans have been hired to protect synagogues and Jewish schools. It follows the stabbing of 2 Jewish men in a suspected terrorist attack in Golders Green in northwest London and a string of other anti-Semitic attacks. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says pro-Palestine demonstrations are fueling hate towards Jews and are calling on them to be banned.
People are using these marches as a cover for anti-Semitism, chanting these sorts of slogans, ripping up. Do you remember they were ripping up pictures of baby hostages?
Yes.
This was all about Jewish hatred, and I think the time has come for us to put a moratorium on it.
2 migrants have died after their boat sank off the French coast overnight, while hundreds of others are attempting to reach the UK this morning. A huge rescue operation was launched in the early hours after a migrant dinghy carrying 65 people got into difficulty off the south of Boulogne. French authorities have confirmed 2 women died in the incident involving a so-called taxi boat as dozens of people tried to scramble on board. Meanwhile, an Iraqi migrant has died in hospital this morning after being stabbed at a French port yesterday. He's the second migrant to sustain knife injuries in Calais in just over a week. Airlines are to be given more freedom to cancel flights to help them cope with rising fuel prices and potential shortages this summer. New contingency plans will allow airlines to group passengers together from different flights on fewer planes to save on fuel and minimise last-minute disruption. The temporary rule will mean companies can adjust their schedules without losing valuable takeoff and landing slots at busy airports. Airlines say they're not currently experiencing any fuel supply problems, but experts are warning the war in Iran and the continued blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is affecting deliveries and could bring shortages within weeks. Meanwhile, passengers have been left stranded at US airports after the low-cost American carrier Spirit Airlines was forced out of business due to the rising cost of jet fuel. Prices in the US have nearly doubled in the last 2 months during the war in Iran. The White House was considering a $500 million bailout, but last-minute talks ended without a deal. It's understood the collapse will put thousands of people out of work. President Donald Trump says the US will withdraw many more troops from Germany as his row with Chancellor Friedrich Merz deepens. On Friday, the Pentagon says 5,000 military personnel would leave the country over the next year. There are currently more than 36,000 based there. Meanwhile, 2 top Republican lawmakers have expressed concern over the plans, which they say would risk undermining deterrence in Europe and send the wrong signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin. You're up to date for now. Let's get back to Michael.
Thank you very much, Bethany Elsie. Sir Keir Starmer has called on Labour colleagues to remain united amid growing speculation of a challenge to his premiership from prominent party figures. The plea comes as the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, has, according to the Sunday Telegraph, won over Labour's ruling body, meaning that it wouldn't stand in his way if he wanted to return to the House of Commons and then launch a leadership bid. Joining me now is my panel, Labour peer Baroness Hayter and the former Conservative Minister Tom Pursglove. Lovely to see you both. Diane, I find this story about Andy Burnham ridiculous for a number of reasons, but it is remarkable how many stories there are. That's the point. This story has been launched by somebody. There's a story out there about how Wes Streeting has got the numbers, he's got them all lined up, he's ready to go. He might go on Friday. So it's just the number of stories that are coming out at the moment which makes one think that all these people are on manoeuvres. What is your analysis of what's going on?
Michael, can I say something first, which is normally I don't say thank you for having me on this programme. I think I'm doing you a favour of getting up on a Sunday and coming to London for it, coming across London. But today I want to say thank you because I just want to let rip. I mean, I just wish some party members would go out, get canvassing and think about what we've got on Thursday, which is elections before us. I cannot believe that some of my colleagues are spending their time either in smoke-filled rooms or ex-smoke-filled rooms or on the phone to journalists briefing them. You know, you remember Harold Wilson, you know, I know what's going on, I'm going on, and that's what Keir Starmer has said. And if we do it wrong, like we did in '79, you get the SDP, you get splits in the party, and then you get, I'm afraid, your party back for 18 years. That's something I don't want to happen.
Can but hope.
So, my message today to all my party colleagues is get out there and canvass and do the job.
It is such a... Sorry. It's such a relief to me to hear you talking about your colleagues briefing the press, because so many people sit in that seat and say, oh, the press have invented all these stories, this is all media hype. But you at least are saying very clearly that this is your colleagues on manoeuvres.
It is. Well, they're trying to be on manoeuvres. I have to say, it feels sometimes like a sort of vanity project. What is important, and I'm a historian, I'm a Labour historian, you know, a historian of the Labour Party. You know, it's 50 years to the day, almost, that Jim Callaghan became Prime Minister, and we were there at that point with almost no majority, having to work with the Lib Dems. You know, the party is older than just this current crop of people, and we owe it to party history and to the future to put the party first. And I just think that the idea that this is dreamt up by the press, if only if it was just that. But this is our responsibility, and we have a responsibility. We're not in government for our own sake. We're in government to help the people of this country. That's why some of us work so hard for this party. It's because we think we can do it better than your party. Maybe right, maybe wrong. That's what we think, and that's what we work for, and that ought to be our driving motivation.
One of the Starmerite arguments is this is no moment to change the Prime Minister with all that's going on internationally and so on. But if on Thursday you do disaster in the polls, and the opinion polls are saying that you will, then that is the moment to change the Prime Minister, isn't it? If the Prime Minister is doing badly, change the Prime Minister.
If it was only the Prime Minister, one might want to look at that. But this isn't. We are facing an international crisis. We did not know when we were elected. We knew about Ukraine. We didn't know it was going to go on this long. We had hoped for a resolution. We didn't know about the Middle East. We didn't know what was happening about oil crisis. The world has changed. It's 2 years, not quite 2 years that we were elected. The world has changed. The demands are greater. And some of the challenges that we're facing are economic, they are global. We didn't know what Trump would be doing about trade. And the idea that the whole of the problems of the Labour Party at the moment are just the Prime Minister's, I think the idea you change him and everything would become right again is not quite right.
Tom, thank you for your patience in waiting. What do you make of this? I mean, in particular, Andy Burnham. Is there any reason to believe that Andy Burnham would be any better than Sir Keir Starmer? And by the way, is there any reason to believe that if the NEC, if I've got the right body, does allow him to stand as a candidate, that he'd find a seat he could win?
Well, I mean, from my point of view, we've seen these videos and these movies play out before, haven't we? And when it's over, it's over. It is now just a matter of time as to when Keir Starmer is disposed, because actually what we've seen is a abuse of colleagues, the human shield of Labour MP after Labour MP having to go out and defend the indefensible. And frankly, you can tell that people have had enough of it, and it's created this environment where cabinet colleagues now feel very comfortable going out, briefing media, telling them that they're going to be launching campaigns and airing all of their grievances because they know full well that nothing is going to happen in terms of punishment of them.
Yes.
So, from my point of view, if you look at the things that are really problematic for Starmer at the moment, there is a complete lack of people management going on. There is a complete lack of political nous. There is the Mandelson saga that is hanging around his neck like an albatross and that he's just not going to be able to get away from because of the fact that he was so pious in opposition about everything else when things went wrong for other leaders. And on all of those fronts, somebody like Andy Burnham is just far better placed. When you look at what he...
Far better placed because he's not been around, as it were. He's not tainted.
So there's no 2-year back history to him in office, so he can say, I'm a fresh pair of eyes looking at the country's challenges. But also, he does have an ability to reach across the political divide. What he's managed to achieve, and I'm no fan of Andy Burnham...
I was going to say, you sound like his campaign manager at the moment.
But when you look at what he's achieved in Greater Manchester in the sense of managing to get people from different political parties to go and vote for him, I think it is difficult not to be quite impressed by that. And that is clearly something that if the Labour Party wants to even begin to have a chance at turning this around, they're going to need that sort of star power.
So are you saying that Wes Streeting, who also has star power, Angela Rayner, she has star power, are you saying that these people do not have the same chance because they're tainted with the last 2 years?
I think they're tainted. I also don't think they've got the same capacity to be able to reach across to try and pull voters in from other political parties. The chances of the Labour Party turning this around, to me, look very, very remote. But... we live in strange times. Crazy things happen in politics these days. And it just seems to me that on those various metrics where things are clearly falling down for Starmer at the moment, Burnham would be better placed out of all of those different contenders.
Dan, could Anthony Burnham find a seat that he could win?
I don't know. I mean, first of all, he's got to get through the NEC, and then, of course, the whips have to decide when the by-election is going to be, and then he has to find a seat. If what you're suggesting is going to do so badly, that we're going to do so badly on Thursday, there may be no safe seats.
Which encourages others to move, of course, at the end of this week, because if they think that there's a chance of getting in ahead of Burnham being able to get back, that might actually bring this to a head.
But I'm not going to get into, if we have a leadership, who would be the best at this. But as I said, my view is there are challenges at the moment. The Prime Minister is actually, and I think in Albania today or somewhere, isn't? No, he said somewhere there's the big European
anywhere
political.
But Britain, people might say.
Well, it's very important. If we want a safe country, I mean, our number one priority at the moment is safety. We have got a war going on in Ukraine. We've got the Middle East, and therefore talking to European allies about rebuilding our defence industry is really important. So, of course, he's doing that. You know, there's nothing more important for a Prime Minister to do than to keep our country safe.
Apparently he's in Armenia. I'm not quite sure what the case for being in Armenia is, but I'm sure...
It is the EPC, it's the European Political Council, and that is a really important, gathering of the people that stand together on the defence of our freedoms.
Tom, I must ask you, I mean, the polls are suggesting that the Labour Party is going to get slaughtered on Thursday. They're also suggesting that the Tories are going to get slaughtered on Thursday. Now, will there just be so much reaction to what happens to the governing party that we'll almost forget to look at what happens to the Conservatives, or will there also be a Conservative crisis?
So I think that it's very likely that the story of the night will be about the Labour Party, and the projections just look absolutely dire. I suspect it will be quite a difficult night for us as Conservatives, and I regret that. There are fantastic candidates standing around the country, but, in the end, the bottom line here is that Kemi inherited an impossibly difficult situation less than 2 years ago. We have gone backwards to then move forwards, and it does feel to me like she's beginning to make an impression, that she's beginning to garner some traction, and I think that she is owed the time and the chance to be able to continue to tell a story. She is making Starmer look like a fool at Prime Minister's questions most weeks, but he's also putting forward a really credible policy prescription for the country, and I think that if we want to have a credible right-of-centre government in this country, you need a strong Conservative Party, and I wanted to continue to tell that vision to the country, because I think the more people hear it, the more they're attracted to it, but we've still got a long way to go.
But the main reason that Kemi Badenoch is more secure is that Robert Jenrick left the party in order to go to Reform UK, and indeed she's lost a lot of people from the right of the party. She's a right-of-centre leader, leading a party which is pretty centrist, and a lot of the people who could have been her allies, incidentally, they were also her rivals, have gone. That's why she's rather secure.
I mean, I hate the fact that Robert and others have gone and left the Conservative fold, because I think we need a united right in order to be successful at elections. I think what we're going to see on Thursday is even more tactical voting come forward. I think that's highly likely that this will be the consequence of the sort of politics that we're in, not just in the coming week, but into the months and years ahead. That is something that is happening. So it is imperative that those of us on the right manage to come together in order to be a strong, credible force at the election. I just genuinely think that Kemi is doing all the right things at the moment. She's assembling a team. The policy is good, and I think that voters are more open to that.
Diane, you've put up a splendid loyalist performance today. You can't be faulted on that. Are there any circumstances in which you would think that a Prime Minister ought to go?
Well, clearly, if a Prime Minister, in our Constitution, has lost the support of the House of Commons, that is always the time that a Prime Minister goes. Can I reflect on some...
Cabinet too, by the way.
Yes, that's true.
Prime Minister finds it very difficult to go on with the Cabinet.
That's true. Yeah. Can I just reflect on one thing I think Tom said that's really important? This sort of splitting of the votes really worries me for local government, that we're going to have lots of difficult coalitions put together. And local government's really important. And the idea that we're going to be running, particularly, the education or adult social care or children's care with very untried groupings together, I think is quite problematic. problematic. So I'm quite worried about what it means for the delivery of services if we do have the sort of splintering that Tom's talked about.
And I think we're going through a revolution, and parts of this revolution may be a little bit uncomfortable. Thank you very much for the time being to Baroness Hayter and Tom Purscliffe. They will join me at noon to discuss whether our society could close ranks against anti-Semitism and how political leaders could lead the way. Time for our brand new Great British Giveaway now, and your chance to have a spectacular summer with £76,543 and 21 pence. That's very exact. In your tax-free cash in your bank. Here are the details that you need for a chance to make it all yours.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny for a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash. Text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Coming up next, should certain pro-Palestine marches be banned? Sir Keir Starmer says there may be a case for it. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it? We're here again. To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Renewed calls to ban pro-Palestine marches have been heard after the Golders Green attack. The Prime Minister has suggested there may be a case for that. He says he wants to see tougher policing of language used during the marches. The Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police says that Britain is facing an epidemic of anti-Semitism, with Jews facing their biggest ever threat in the United Kingdom. Joining me now is the former government independent advisor on political violence and disruption, Lord Walney. Lord Walney, John, welcome to GB News. How would you assess where the situation stands now? These Palestine marches go on weekly. They have been now doing so for rather a long time. Where do we now stand, in your view?
I think it's unquestionable that this is creating a permissive environment for the really vile, extreme anti-Semitism, hatred of Jews, which we are seeing spilling over into the streets of London with this spate of attacks. So this is not a normal situation. It requires firm action. And on the face of it, I welcome the sentiments from the Prime Minister, but I think we've been around this track for a number of years now, and I think it is worth being really clear with the government on what they are proposing. And at the moment, I don't think they are proposing any change at all to what the situation and the policing arrangements that are there at present, and that is not sufficient for the scale of this crisis.
John, why do you think we've reached this position? The Commissioner of the Metropolitan Police referred to a Venn diagram of extremism, with Jews finding themselves at the centre of this. I mean, is this because we're looking at Islamist extremists or organising this? Is it because we're dealing with foreign agents, perhaps instigated by Iran? Is it both of those things and other things? How has this come about?
Yeah, the Iranian influence is a form of Islamist extremism, but the Islamist radicalisation has gone relatively unchallenged within British society for too long now, and it is undisputably an element that is actively fueling this wave of anti-Semitism. And when you have these large-scale marches where thousands of people are on the streets, and it may well be the case that the majority are not showing active hatred towards Jewish people, but there is a substantial strand within it. You've got banners that have been supporting prescribed organizations, terrorist organizations like Hamas, who are dedicated to destroying, eradicating all Jewish people. And you've got this chant of globalize the Intifada, which in this context clearly does mean bringing the conflict with Jewish people happening in the Middle East onto the streets of London. That is a factor. And when you get marches, gatherings of the size of these, it is very difficult for the police to wade in and arrest them all. Now, we've wanted them to do more of that on the spot, but they say, well, you have to, in our view, our view of operational policing, that risks escalating the situation. So often what the police will do is that they will rely on video evidence being taken at the time, then seek potentially to track down offenders after the fact. But I mean, no surprise, that proves very difficult to do. And so the message that most people get is that you can get away with this absolutely virulent targeting of Jewish people, which I think it's fair to say that if this was switched to another minority in British society, and people would be the push to do this would be much stronger, would reach far more greatly into parts of the liberal left who are very reticent to take the action that's needed at the moment.
Just to go back to the first point in that answer that you made, how should Islamic extremism have been checked and challenged, and how should it be checked and challenged now?
I think in the centre ground of politics, in British public life, in our civic institutions, we have run scared for many decades now of criticising Islamist extremism, of pointing out how deeply regressive an ideology it is, how it is incompatible with our views of equality in a liberal democracy, and how that there are people who are determined to spread it, and bad faith actors, often aligned to Islamist groups themselves, have tried to say that anyone who speaks out on that is seeking to attack and denigrate all Muslims. Now that is the opposite of the case.
So for example, John,
don't want anything to do with this.
So, for example, John, would you wish the Prime Minister to make a speech in which he called out, denounced Islamist extremism, said all the things that you've just said, incompatible with our values, has to be called out, has to be denounced, has to be stopped, and this has nothing to do with being anti-Islam, it's anti-Islamist extremism?
Exactly. He should start there. But, I mean, one of the problems, I think, over the last 18 months is that there have been a lot of heartfelt speeches from the Prime Minister and others, and not a lot of action. So you actually have to name this problem and then have a plan throughout our arms of government to challenge it and not put our head in the sand, or in the case of some police forces or some other institutions that actually been putting the Islamists on the inside of the tent, calling the shots and making the laws. And in those circumstances, the vast majority of people have just run a mile from this because they don't want to be called out as racist, as prejudiced. And in that environment, this acceptability or turning a blind eye to this has become commonplace. So yes, leadership from the Prime Minister from the top, absolutely needed, but then follow through right the way through every arm of government and civic life.
Very, very interesting, Lord Warney. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution today. Coming up, oil prices hit their highest level since 2022 this week. How resilient is our economy? This is Sunday with Michael Portillo on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A lot of cloud across the UK through today, but some glimmers of sunshine at times, but that may trigger one or two heavy, possibly thundery showers. Low pressure dominating the weather pattern at the moment. Not many isobars on the chart, meaning those showers that do develop will be slow moving. But looking at the picture for the rest of Sunday, a lot of cloud across the UK, areas of rain, particularly across northeast England. It will remain wet here for much of the day. Showery rain across southern parts of England and Wales, and some of these showers turning heavy later on in the afternoon. The odd rumble of thunder possible. In any brighter breaks, up to 20 degrees towards London. Cold across northern Scotland, 9 or 10 degrees here, so temperatures below average for the time of year. Into the evening time, a lot of cloud across Scotland, but there could be a few glimmers of sunshine around some western coasts. Over the hills, some drizzle and hill fog in places, temperatures 11 or 12 degrees. A similar picture across Northern Ireland, a lot of cloud, the rain still falling across northeast England, and those heavy showers across southern parts of England and Wales continue, could lead to one or two tricky travelling conditions in places. Those showers drift a little further northwards as we move through the evening, but overnight they should start to ease in intensity. But a lot of cloud across the UK overnight means temperatures will hold up around 9 or 10 degrees. But some clear skies across northern Scotland here. Temperatures could fall close to freezing in the countryside, so a touch of frost possible here. But it does mean a fairly cloudy start to Bank Holiday Monday. Some showery outbreaks of rain across parts of Wales, the Midlands, but a lot of dry weather to come. Some sunny spells in places too, but that may trigger 1 or 2 heavy showers again across southern parts of England and Wales, which could be on the thundery side. Some rain across northern Scotland, and temperatures a little lower compared to the weekend highs, around 17 or 18 degrees.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition. Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. With UK borrowing costs hitting their highest levels since the 2008 financial crisis, and further concerns about the levels of inflation, how resilient is our economy and our energy supply to the impacts of the war in between the United States and Iran? Joining me now is the CEO of Electrify Britain, Camilla Bourne, and the economics editor at The Spectator, Michael Simmons. Welcome to you both. Michael Simmons, the Bank of England was looking at 3 scenarios for what might happen in the near future. One of those scenarios, the most pessimistic, sees inflation going above 6% and 5 increases in interest rates to more than 5%. How sensible is it, when the British economy has been hammered by higher oil prices, also to hammer it again with higher interest rates?
Well, this is the bind that the Bank of England's Monetary Policy Committee finds themselves in, and that's why they haven't increased interest rates yet, because, as you say, the economy is in such a fragile state that if they are forced to do this because of resurgent inflation, then we're going to see even more unemployment. We're going to see lower growth. But then on the one hand, you've got that being the majority view of the committee, but the bank's chief economist being a dissenting voice and saying, no, actually, inflation is going to be a serious issue. So I think you're right that, it would not be a sensible thing in an ideal world. But if inflation, does get as bad as 6% in that worst case scenario, then they're going to be left with no choice.
This may seem like a daft question, but is there a difference between a price going up, that is the price of oil, and inflation? I've always thought of inflation as being, as it were, a disease of money. The money tends to lose its value. But when a price goes up, that has an impact through an economy. Is that necessarily inflationary? If one price has gone up, oil, should you be hammering the economy with higher interest rates?
Well, it doesn't have to be. And a lot of this depends on the fiscal response. I mean, you get this argument about when we had inflation after the Russia-Ukraine war. Some economists who, believe that inflation is always a monetary phenomenon would say that the reason why we had inflation after that is because the government, subsidized households and being able to meet those energy costs. And that meant that they didn't pull back in consumption elsewhere. So if we see something like that again, then there could be, it could be it's the monetary effect that's causing inflation. So I think you are right that prices alone don't necessarily have to be inflationary, but the way we seem to respond to crises, it kind of doesn't help.
Camilla Bourne, thank you for your patience. How do you view our energy security at the moment, given the wars that we're seeing in Europe and close to Europe?
So, of course, it's concerning, and you'll hear that from anyone who pays a bill. We all know that. I think we're lucky in that we're protected out to July with the energy price cap. And it's positive that many people are moving with their feet, voting with their feet, and doing things like getting their hands on solar panels, trying to get electric vehicles so they're not dependent on that oil and gas, which is spiking. But yes, it is concerning. We are expecting prices to increase through the year, and that will, of course, hit people hard, and it will affect their family income.
Camilla, would you be against allowing the further exploitation of oil and gas in the North Sea, given that those resources would come from, as it were, within the British economy? We would be using those resources without having to import them from elsewhere. That would increase our energy security. And the fact that we didn't have to move the oil and gas from elsewhere on the planet would also be environmentally advantageous.
I can see the arguments, and I guess, you know, we're all advocating for homegrown power so that we're not in this situation where we're dependent on oil and gas. But I think the main thing is we really have to get off these technologies that are dependent on it. No one wants to be in this situation again. And frankly, at the moment, our final energy consumption, so the energy we use to power the things that we do in our lives, if that's moving around or heating our homes, only 21% of it still comes from electricity, and the rest of it comes from oil and gas. So we need to move away from those technologies. If we take a little bit more from the North Sea, we take a bit more from the North Sea, but we know that's not going to be a long-term benefit for anyone. And frankly, I'm not sure who will invest, because yes, in a crisis you can make money, but long-term it's not a particularly attractive proposition given it's 90% depleted already.
You see, Camilla, I think, you know, the United Kingdom has made the most phenomenal progress towards decarbonisation. You know, when you think where we've come from, we had coal-fired power stations until pretty recently. We've made the most enormous change. But I can't see any reason why we should imagine that our progress towards decarbonisation always has to be a straight line. Surely we should be flexible to respond to changing conditions. And the fact that we now need to place a bigger premium on home supply ought to surely persuade us that oil and gas that we have at our disposal in the short term could be very useful in making us less vulnerable.
So yeah, absolutely home supply. That's why we saw 27,000 installs of solar systems in the last month in March. And yes, you know, we do have oil and gas. We have prospered from that in this country, and absolutely we continue to do so. We're still making money out of that reserve. But in the medium term, we need to get off of these technologies that run on oil and gas. No one wants to go to the pump and fill up their car and feel that pain. Much, much better if you can charge it on electricity. Likewise, we don't want heating that's dependent on gas, which is costing us so much money. So yeah, perhaps there will be an economic argument for saying take a little bit more oil and gas out of the North Sea. But again, we've got to be really careful about it, because is it an economic proposition? Will that investment come? Ultimately, we want to move away from the technologies that run on oil and gas. But yeah, maybe we'll get a little bit more from the North Sea to help us, and it won't be an entirely straight line.
Michael Simmons, how do you view the energy supply situation, our energy vulnerability?
Well, this is, you know, the biggest crisis facing Britain right now, and it's also probably at least half the cause of why the economy has stagnated for the last 2 years, because ultimately we are the country that's paying among the highest prices in the world for domestic and industrial energy, and that's partly because of the choices we've made trying to do this decarbonisation when, as you point out, we're only responsible for 1% of emissions, and also we're the first country in the world to have halved our emissions. So I would say it's time to say, forget about that. We've done our bit for the environment. Let's just do whatever it takes to bring down those energy prices. And I like the idea of, you know, electrifying everything and switching ourselves to electrics, but that's gonna require so much more energy production that right now we are not capable of. So I would say we need to drop the politics and the idealism on both sides of the kind of green debate and just say we need to do all kind of energy everywhere we can do it, and we need to do it right now. I don't care, you know, if it's clean, I don't care if it's dirty, I don't care where it comes from. We just need energy abundance.
Camilla, do you ever think that, you know, whether a person is running a home or whether a person is running a business and paying very high energy costs, as has just been pointed out by Michael, do you think in a way they're getting a bit tired of hearing people like you saying, oh, we must electrify, we must do this? I mean, the latest thing this week has been about tumble dryers and whether we should be going to a new type of tumble dryer. Do you think people are beginning to lose patience with the green argument?
I don't think this is about the green argument. This is about the fact that you can have power and control over your own home. If you can produce your own energy, you bring down your bill. If you can drive an electric car, you have a cheaper experience when you try and go and fill it up. So it's a different kind of discussion now. Yes, we have to be a bit flexible about where we get our energy from, but energy abundance, maybe, but only energy abundance if it's cheap. That's the priority. We have to think about how we can make sure we have cheap access to energy and we are protected when things like this happen. The prices have skyrocketed. No one wants to be having to pay those kind of prices. Much better if you can use homegrown energy to do that, be that renewables or, our limited amount of oil and gas that's left.
But Camilla, what is your evidence for saying that these things are going to be cheap? In every instance that we look at, it rather seems that we're going to pay more. We're certainly going to pay more for our hardware and possibly more for the electricity.
It's absolutely true that this country has underinvested in the energy system, and that means we have to buy new kit now, and that does cost money, and it is an upgrade, so it will definitely cost us. I'm not pretending it's not, but it will cost us to buy gas infrastructure, and then it will cost us to import that gas. If we buy renewables infrastructure, we don't have to import sun or import wind. We can just use it. So there's a different way of thinking about this. We're trying to upgrade the system with a hangover of the fact that we've underinvested in it, but let's do it in a way that is resilient so that people don't have this, or businesses for that matter, have this feeling when we reach a crisis, when we can't afford to pay our bills and we can't afford to run the economy. You're absolutely right. Oil shouldn't be the thing that's driving inflation, but it is because our economy is dependent on it. Of course, we want to move away from that kind of dependency. We want to be able to be independent and prosperous as a country.
Thank you, Camilla Bourne. Thank you very much, Michael Simmons. Lovely to have you both on, and happy bank holiday weekend to you both. Coming up, as Their Majesties King Charles and Queen Camilla return to Britain following their US state visit, how did the King handle President Trump's comments on Iran? Royal expert Pandora Forsyth will explain. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. A very unsettled spell across southern parts of Europe with some heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. These could be quite intense at times with some frequent lightning and some squally winds, particularly across northern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, also parts of Italy could see some heavy and intense thunderstorms. But elsewhere across Italy, Sicily and also parts of Greece, it should be mostly dry, plenty of sunshine. Still seeing some showers into next week, but feeling warm in the sunshine, temperatures in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
There's now this story, it's been in the Mail a couple of days, a woman who was going to die today, a 56-year-old woman who lost her son but is perfectly healthy and has gone to Switzerland, to Basel.
Yeah.
To die.
Yeah, this is Wendy Duffy. I mean, it is an absolutely heartbreaking case that she lost her son when he was 23 and was unable to get over it. And she had therapy, suffered from depression, decided now that she wants to end her life. Dignitas wouldn't do it. And what is interesting about this case is that it wouldn't be covered if the assisted dying bill had gone through.
Oh, that's interesting.
So because she's healthy, she's not suffering from any terminal disease, so Dignitas wouldn't touch it. It couldn't have happened here, and she's found a different clinic in Switzerland.
It's the slippery slope argument, isn't it?
Then when you looked at the consequences and the safeguards that they had, which were lacking, I'm really pleased that we don't.
I'm exactly the same.
Is utter despair and grief a sufficient illness to be able to satisfy Dignitas? Clearly not. But in a way, if anyone else is allowed to...
No.
die, then why shouldn't she be?
I think that's no. It's got to be terminal illness, hasn't
it? To be sanctioned by the state. Otherwise, you're going to end up legally allowing some teenagers with their anxiety.
And that's the difficulty, isn't it? Who's to say that somebody else's grief isn't as serious as hers, or you're going to allow somebody who's sad, and we're not going to take it away from them. I mean, her story is tragic, but I don't think that you should be encouraged to go through with a suicide because of that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get us on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. Their Majesties, the King and Queen, completed a 4-day United States state visit this week. After state banquets and ceremonial parades at the White House, President Trump announced at the end of the visit that he was cutting tariffs on Scotch whisky. How well did the King do? With me now is royal commentator and broadcaster Pandora Forsyth. Pandora, welcome to GB News and to the programme.
Thank you, Michael.
The speech was very well constructed and also very well delivered. Let's talk about the construction first. Obviously, there would be many hands involved. How great do you think the King's participation was in the process of putting together that speech?
The King will never read something which he hasn't given the green light on, but that's not to say that he doesn't have several aides helping him. Ultimately, this was one of the biggest challenges for the King within his reign so far, a diplomatic tightrope, as everyone has been calling it. And it was, quite frankly, that indeed. I suppose what we have to think about here is this is the King's job, right, to support and help the government in times of needs. And when this was originally arranged, he did not know the current political landscape of what he was going to be going into within this 4-day visit. And I think he's gone to show that, you know, there is an argument for the monarchy within the UK. And at times like this, we absolutely need it.
President Trump tried to call what the King had said in aid of his Iranian policy. Now, I think that went a great deal further probably than the King and certainly the British government had intended. How did the King, the palace and the British government deal with Donald Trump's attempts to sort of hijack the speech as support for his policy?
Yes, there were several risk assessments that I do know before this visit was signed off, and one of them being the fact that Trump says what he thinks, and sometimes perhaps what Trump says can be contested, and that it was by Buckingham Palace within a few hours of Trump saying this. They sort of released a statement, as it were, to various different news outlets to essentially shut down what Trump said in a very polite way, as they always do. And ultimately, of course, that puts Charles, the King, in an uncomfortable position. But we always knew going over there that was one of the risks that both Camilla and Charles would face with the Trumps, and they've handled it immaculately. It couldn't have gone better. And within all the time that they were there, it was only 5 times that they were essentially, I say, mic'd up, i.e. the pool of journalists which were around them were able to get audio. And I'm sure we can all read between the lines there and figure out why exactly that was.
It was an unusually political speech by a monarch, in my view, in that, for example, it took a very clear position in favour of NATO. It emphasised the importance of continuing the relationship with France. It talked about the importance of the environment. Those are quite strong political issues, and at least in the United States, quite contentious. New ground there, and do you think the King handled that well?
I would agree with you. That is new ground. And to be frank, I wasn't expecting it to be so political. He also mentioned Ukraine, which we know Trump has been very vocal on. He also mentioned Afghanistan. But the fact that he also mentioned environment, I think also goes to show that has been one of his standpoints. Even when he was the Prince of Wales, it's very much, been his sort of lifelong ambition to ensure that many leaders around the world take environmental issues seriously. So that didn't surprise me. But the political side of things did. But it also goes to show that actually he's not intimidated by Trump. He's not intimidated by any of Trump's aides sitting around him. And he's okay with addressing things directly without leaning too far into giving his own personal political opinion on things. He played a blinder, in my personal opinion.
It's interesting, isn't it, as the United States celebrates 250 years of freeing themselves from us. There they are. I mean, the entire Congress looking really very monarchical, but looking very willing to be charmed by the king.
Yes, the irony has, not failed me there. And of course, it got 12 standing ovations. And actually, in 1991, when his late mother, who, the nation absolutely loved, and so did the Commonwealth, was there in the USA giving her speech to Congress. She didn't even get 12 standing ovations. Not that it's a competition, but I know for a fact whenever that he does do a speech and something of this great importance, he always does look to his late mother for inspiration, even though she's
Indeed,
not around.
It does. Thank you, Pandora. I'm sorry, got to cut you off there. We are concluding the first hour of Sunday with Michael Portillo. Please rejoin me at noon. The panel is going to be discussing whether it's possible to unify our society against anti-Semitism. Stefan Kyriazis will enter stage left to review Grace Pervades and Mass. Can studying classical music help young people? And the renovation of Nelson's flagship. You are watching Michael Portillo on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A lot of cloud across the UK through today, but some glimmers of sunshine at times, but that may trigger one or two heavy, possibly thundery showers. Low pressure dominating the weather pattern at the moment. Not many isobars on the chart, meaning those showers that do develop will be slow moving. But looking at the picture for the rest of Sunday, a lot of cloud across the UK, areas of rain, particularly across northeast England. It will remain wet here for much of the day. Showery rain across southern parts of England and Wales, and some of these showers turning heavy later on in the afternoon. The odd rumble of thunder possible. In any brighter breaks, up to 20 degrees towards London. Cold across northern Scotland, 9 or 10 degrees here, so temperatures below average for the time of year. Into the evening time, a lot of cloud across Scotland, but there could be a few glimmers of sunshine around some western coasts. Over the hills, some drizzle and hill fog in places, temperatures 11 or 12 degrees. A similar picture across Northern Ireland, a lot of cloud, the rain still falling across northeast England, and those heavy showers across southern parts of England and Wales continue, could lead to one or two tricky travelling conditions in places. Those showers drift a little further northwards as we move through the evening, but overnight they should start to ease in intensity. But a lot of cloud across the UK overnight means temperatures will hold up around 9 or 10 degrees, but some clear skies across northern Scotland here. Temperatures could fall close to freezing in the countryside, so a touch of frost possible here. But it does mean a fairly cloudy start to Bank Holiday Monday. Some showery outbreaks of rain across parts of Wales, the Midlands, but a lot of dry weather to come. Some sunny spells in places too, but that may trigger one or two heavy showers again across southern parts of England and Wales, which could be on the thundery side. Some rain across northern Scotland, and temperatures a little lower compared to the weekend highs, around 17 or 18 degrees.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Does Chopper need a coffee? Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
Needs to
stop.
You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
May I be amongst the first to wish you a good afternoon. The Scottish poet James Thomson wrote, "Among the changing months, May stands confessed the sweetest, and in fairest colours dressed." Let that be a sufficient explanation for my attire today. After defeating the Nazis and discovering the full horror of the Holocaust, you'd think we would never again witness anti-Semitism. But now I have to ask my panel, can we rebuild a national consensus against it? Stefan Kyriazis will raise the curtain on the latest from the West End with reviews of Grace Pervades and Mass. Can studying classical music be a viable apprenticeship model for young people? Julia Pearson from the Surrey Hills Music Festival will describe how youngsters benefit from learning classical music.
being able to do all of this work whilst protecting the structure of the ship, that's been an endless challenge.
The renovation of Nelson's flagship HMS Victory is firmly underway, with its masts now being removed for conservation work, 3 cheers and an extra ration of rum. All of that and much more, but first your latest news headlines with Bethany Elsey.
Michael, thank you. Good afternoon. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 1 minute past midday. We'll start with some breaking news. 2 people have died after a house explosion in Bristol this morning. Avon and Somerset police have declared a major incident after the blast at an address on Sterncourt Road at around 6:30. The cause is being treated as suspicious, but officers aren't currently looking for anyone else in connection, and it's not being treated as terror-related. Residents living nearby are being evacuated to a temporary rest centre. The Prime Minister is urging his party to be more united and not repeat the same mistake as the Conservatives by descending into what he's called political infighting. It comes amid speculation his rivals are plotting a leadership challenge. It's reported Loyalists on Labour's ruling body, the NEC, are no longer prepared to block Andy Burnham from returning to Parliament. The Greater Manchester Mayor was stopped from running in the Gorton and Denton by-election in February. It's also reported several MPs are prepared to step aside to trigger a by-election which could pave the way for his return. It's reported former Royal Marines and veterans of the Parachute Regiment have been hired to protect synagogues and Jewish schools. It follows the stabbing of 2 Jewish men in a suspected terrorist attack in Golders Green in northwest London, and a string of other anti-Semitic attacks. The Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch says pro-Palestine demonstrations are fueling hate towards Jews and is calling on them to be banned.
People are using these marches as a cover for anti-Semitism, chanting these sorts of slogans, ripping up. Do you remember they were ripping up pictures of baby hostages?
Yes.
This was all about Jewish hatred, and I think the time has come for us to put a moratorium on it.
2 migrants have died after their boat sank off the French coast overnight, while hundreds of others are attempting to reach the UK this morning. A rescue operation was launched in the early hours after a migrant dinghy carrying 65 people got into difficulty off the south of Boulogne. French authorities have confirmed 2 women died in the incident involving a so-called taxi boat, as dozens of people tried to scramble on board. Meanwhile, an Iraqi migrant has also died in hospital this morning after being stabbed at a French port yesterday. He's the 2nd migrant to sustain knife injuries in Calais in just over a week. Airlines are to be given more freedom to cancel flights to help them cope with rising jet fuel prices and potential shortages this summer. New contingency plans will allow airlines to group passengers from different flights together on fewer planes to save on fuel and minimise last-minute disruption. The temporary rule will mean companies can adjust their schedules without losing valuable takeoff and landing slots at busy airports. Airlines say they're not currently experiencing any fuel supply problems, but experts are warning the war in Iran and the continued blockade of the Strait of Hormuz is affecting deliveries and could bring shortages within weeks. And President Donald Trump says the US will withdraw many more troops from Germany as his row with Chancellor Friedrich Merz deepens. On Friday, the Pentagon said 5,000 military personnel would leave the country over the next year. There are currently more than 36,000 based there. But 2 senior Republican lawmakers have expressed concern over the plans, which they say would risk undermining deterrence in Europe and send the wrong signal to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Those are your latest headlines. Let's get back to Michael.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. I'm interested that the Metropolitan Police Commissioner has spoken about a pandemic of anti-Semitism and has called for work to be done to tackle those attitudes in society which are far too prevalent. Who could have imagined such a thing a few years ago? Is he right? Is there any hope of building a consensus against anti-Semitism? Did Zach Palensky, the leader of the Green Party, demonstrate the lack of such consensus with his remarks after the stabbing in Golders Green? Joining me now is my panel, former Conservative Minister Tom Pursdove and the Labour peer Baroness Hayter. Tom, What do you think about the present state of our society? There was a poll that was quoted earlier by Camilla. Just going to quote a couple of things. Only 24% of British Muslims believe that Hamas committed murder and rape on the 7th of October. And also 65% of young British Muslims think Israel has no right to exist, 65%. How far are we from a consensus that would enable us as a society to come down heavily against anti-Semitism?
It's thoroughly depressing, isn't it? There's no other way of describing it. And I find it so heartbreaking when things happen, you see these atrocities like the one that we saw this week, and what you hear is qualified condemnation. It should be absolutely clear that anti-Semitism and attacks on the British Jewish community are completely unacceptable. And across the political spectrum, I think there needs to be leadership shown and a clarity of message that we simply won't stand for this. Because it seems to me that where are the anti-racism campaigners? Ordinarily, they would be calling out, quite rightly, other forms of racism. But on this, they seem to just take a pass on it, leave it, or perhaps even be standing on the wrong side of this. And I just find that so dispiriting. So all of us, on the left of politics, on the right of politics, have got to find a way of sending a unified message to the country that all of us have a responsibility and a duty to call this out in the same way that we would call out and report any other type of racism that I think the vast majority of law-abiding people would feel responsibility to report.
What is your example or examples of qualified condemnation?
Well, what I mean by that is where immediately it's the sort of, it's terrible, isn't it? But Israel, it's used as an excuse, as a cover to give some sort of credence to the action that has happened. I just find that completely abhorrent, and that is why we're having this debate in the country at the moment about these marches. It cannot be right that we've got people out there chanting with placards, with threats to the lives of the Jewish community, and actually trying to draw that equivalence between the State of Israel and British Jews is just completely wrong on a whole host of fronts. We need to unpick that. We need to get to the bottom of this, because this is a cancer in our society that is causing great destruction, great damage, and ultimately it's seeing innocent people losing their lives.
Dan, do we have a national consensus against anti-Semitism? Could we achieve one?
We haven't got one at the moment. I mean, I concur with every word that Tom said. We do not have one at the moment. I mean, it's really interesting, whatever you feel about Gaza, the idea that a criticism of the present Israeli government gives you some sort of license to attack Jews living in this country. I mean, my Jewish friends who live in Israel are as against that government as anybody. But the idea that the Jewish population is somehow liable for an Israeli government action. I mean, we don't blame here Afghanistanis for what their Taliban do treating women, or indeed what the Iranians do about treating either women or gay people. We don't hate or march against Iranians living here, or Arabs living here, or Muslims living here because of what some governments do abroad. There's something utterly different where people say that because that government over there in Israel is doing something they don't like, that the people of the similar background, i.e. Jewish people here, somehow must apologise for it or take responsibility for it. So we are a long way from a national consensus.
Where's it coming from? The Venn diagram, that this was similarly used by the Met Police Commissioner. The Venn diagram, what does it consist of? What are the forces that are leading to this anti-Semitism?
One of them is basic anti-Semitism that's always around. We've never quite stamped it out. But the second, obviously, is what happened in Gaza. But I mean, I think we all take some responsibility for that. I'm a member of the House of Lords, and someone was showing me the other day that the number of questions and statements in the House of Lords about Gaza far outnumbered even the debates we were having on the health service or Sudan, which is a real humanitarian crisis happening in Sudan. So in a sense, we were fueling the idea that what was happening in Gaza was the biggest disaster in the world, and we were doing it in our country, not in the country countries concerned, as if somehow there was a bit of the UK that was more responsible for that. And that helped, I think, some of the attention on our Jewish population. But we've all stood by, I think, silently. I might even quote something as you're into poetry later. We have stood by when some of these marches would start near a synagogue. Now, if you want to march in favour of Palestinians, and I have marched in favour of Palestinians, but to start either on a Saturday or near a synagogue tells me you're not blaming the Israeli government, you're blaming the Jewish people.
You've both got through your answers without mentioning Islamist extremism. The Metropolitan Police Commissioner didn't mention it. The Prime Minister hasn't mentioned it. No one wants to mention it. Tom, do you want to mention it?
Again, there's a duty and a responsibility to stamp this out. And that contingent of people give...
Sorry, what are you stamping out?
So that sort of element of extremism that we see in our communities that gives law-abiding, decent Muslims a bad name and a bad reputation has to be dealt with.
Islamist extremism.
I'm very happy to call that, that is extremism, because that is what it is. And, when you are saying globalise the Intifada, when you are out with those placards, when you are out chanting, you are out there deliberately trying to intimidate British Jews. That is what that contingent is doing. And that is why I take the view that there is definitely a case now. We've seen an incremental response to this, but I think the time has come to genuinely have a proper look at a moratorium on some of these marches, where that is happening, but also things like, and it was proven in response to the summer riots in 2024, that the criminal justice system, where it wants to, can very quickly deliver justice. And I think these are exactly the sorts of cases where ministers ought to be looking alongside the judiciary. If you are behaving in this way, there ought to be a very clear understanding that you will be brought to justice, that it will be quick, and that there should be an exemplary sentence handed down to send a really clear message that as a society we're just not going to tolerate this.
Dan, is Islamist extremism part of it?
I think what is part of it is there is a part of our part of society, it's not just that does not believe that Israel has the right to exist. Now, I find that extraordinary. We live in Europe, and I'm very much a European. And in Europe, 6 million Jews were killed, and they were told they were not welcome in Europe. Their own country, we only have to go back 2,000 years. We can go back further. But, Israel is where Jesus, who was Jewish, lived. This is a country of the Jewish people. And the idea that they shouldn't exist, when we've thrown them out of Europe in the past, the pogroms from Russia go back a long way. So, a Jewish community have been expelled from all parts of Europe. They've gone to their own country, and then we have people, whether you want to call them extreme Islamists or whether you want to call them any others, who deny the right of a people for their own country. But more than that, you then expect that one Jewish state to be sort of extra guilty about anything it does that you don't like. I don't like the bombing it was doing in Gaza, but you don't try and wipe that country off the face of the earth for what its government is doing. So this is a deep-seated problem. And so when you hear the word Zionists used as a word of criticism, in other words, anyone who supports the existence of a state of Israel is somehow bad and can be marched against, no wonder this is really threatening. Now, whether that is a particular sect, I think it goes broader than that. I think there are a lot of people now who need to be reminded of why we needed a Jewish state, why it's their right to have one, and that should be defended. And we all have to do that. This is a whole country response that's needed.
Starting with our political leadership?
Absolutely, starting with our churches, with our mosques, with every religion, with our Christian churches, everyone.
But our Prime Minister too.
And our Prime Minister and our Leader of the Opposition and the Leader of the Green Party.
And party leaders, positing the question, is this an actual threat or a perceived threat? On this week of all weeks, extraordinary, totally unacceptable.
I think they were referring to Zach Polanski, the Leader of the Green Party. Thank you very much, Baroness Hayter and Tom Persglove. Thank you for coming out on a bank holiday weekend. Coming up, Stefan Kyriazis will raise the curtain on the latest from the West End with reviews of Grace Pervades and Mass. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel. 5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates, 5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show. It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored. Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable. What did she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages. Because the news is going to happen. So get a head start today. Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition. Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. To be or not to be, that is the question. And Stefan Kyriazis answers it by being here, along with Rafa, for theatre reviews.
Indeed, and we are going straight in with everything, a show that is all about theatre. It's very theatrical. It's about, actually, I think you're the last living person, Michael, that can remember Henry Irving. No. Victorian actors. Henry Irving was the greatest of his day, but he was also an actor-manager, took over the Lyceum, almost was involved in founding a national theatre that didn't happen at the time. It's his relationship with Helen Terry, who was the actress of her era. It's interesting, lots going on. We've got some lovely fruity actors talking all about it.
The play is a love letter, really, to theatre as a form and what that form can do. And it takes its focus on this quartet of characters.
Helen Terry was universally loved in a way that just surpasses in anything you see today. Both she and Henry Irving were just extraordinarily admired.
And I suppose the question the play is asking through, as well as giving a history of theatre, it's also asking that question, do you make yourself happier by following your own desires, or do you fulfill yourself more completely in the service of other people?
So this is a new play by David Hare.
It is. And it's very interesting, almost topping and tailing, because at the moment we've got Teeth and Smiles just finishing its run, which is from 50 years ago and is all about artistic expression being stifled, in that case a woman in the music industry, and also this need to perform, this need to create for all artists. We've now looped around to this is his latest play. It basically, like you said, a love letter to theatre. It's got a lot going on, a lot of moving parts. Now, you saw Ralph Fiennes there and Miranda Raisin. Fiennes, this is his sweet spot. It is literally fruitier than a basket from Fortnum & Mason's. He is rolling his vowels, he is posing, but he also is an actor that knows he's a bit stagey and hammy, and the idea is that Ellen Terry released him from that. She was very naturalistic. We'd probably still regard them as terribly stiff. But she introduced the idea, good Lord, of looking at the other actor when you were playing opposite them. So there's a lot of interesting stuff about development of theatre, about fame, a lot of stuff about their dynamic. There was a love between them, but he was married to a wife that wouldn't grant a divorce. And he was also very, very uptightly obsessed with theatre. She was a free spirit. We have 26 scenes, I think, skipping across about 60 years, which includes their children, as they said. The children were phenomenal. The son went on to revolutionise theatre. He was not liked, but very influential. Ended up having to work in Europe most of the time because people wouldn't deal with him. But he believed in a very free, open theatre. He introduced overhead lighting, believed the actors were marionettes and the director was the artist, which did not ever go down very well. The daughter was a semi-notorious lesbian living in a throuple at the bottom of Ellen Terry's garden, but she was involved in suffrage, in bringing over shows about social issues. So they're both really important, but the kids are kind of played mainly for me for comedy. The son's a bit pompous, the daughter is just in this amusing, witty threesome. I could have done without all of that. I wanted more. When Fiennes and Raisin are on stage, it's electrifying. They lean into the hamminess of it, but it's also wonderful, touching, moving, interesting. It's another one of these plays from recently where I found I wanted to go out and find out more.
Yes.
But it was also because I was a bit frustrated at what I wasn't getting from the play.
Right.
It's very enjoyable, but is the thing for that, but worth it, just especially for Fiennes. There's lots of little inserts where they're doing Shakespeare and things like that. So hugely enjoyable. Bit like Teeth and Smiles. It's interesting. He's topped and tailed with two shows with huge ideas about arts and creation that are somewhat unsatisfying. But that one is on at Theatre Royal Haymarket until the start of July. And it's a romp.
OK. So that was...
Grace Pervades.
Grace Pervades, and now we've got Mass.
Yeah, now Mass, I have this habit. I go in I'd like to not know anything about a show when I go in. It's the opposite of many people. I like to just sit down. So I was not quite prepared for this. I had no idea. So basically Mass has got religious connotations. It also is in the phrase mass shooting. So what we have is an Episcopalian church, indeterminate place in America, fussing around, waiting for these two couples to come. We don't know for a long time, even after the couples have arrived, what has happened. And as we start to realise there was a shooting years ago and the couples are on either side of it, for a short while, we still don't know which couple is which. One couple's child was murdered. The other couple's child was the murderer and killed a bunch of kids and then himself. It's extraordinary. We've got them talking about it here, but it's powerful stuff.
Incredible play, and I don't use the word lightly.
And it's people talking, trying to listen, not being able to listen.
I think some of the best plays, that they work on your head and your heart. And this play was so compelling on the first read. I just read through it in one go because it just draws you in.
Like all the best plays.
Yeah.
Pal, so you thoroughly...
I absolutely loved it. You can see the four of them there. You've got Adil Akhtar, Lindsay Marshall as a rather more humble, possibly slightly more working-class couple, Paul Hilton, Monica Dolan as a more uptight, middle-classy couple. I don't know how they'll deal with it come sort of awards time, because all four are extraordinary. And the idea is that what is guilt, what is blame, how do you move forward from the loss of a child? Are you allowed to grieve a child that's done something terrible? Should you then look back and feel guilt for not having stopped it, not having seen it? It brings in politics and gun control, but very lightly. The idea is it's actually about the people and the pain, and the other two come in wanting revenge. They want to make the other two feel pain, but the other two were already in absolute agony. The marriage is gone, everything. It shifts the whole time. Very slow revolve stage, and it happens in real time. 95 minutes is them coming in, sitting down, and we watch it unfold. It's been compared a lot to James Graham's Punch, which is also about restorative justice, where people come together to let go from either side. Everyone loved Punch. I didn't so much. I really loved this, and I disagree with people saying that it's manipulative or mawkish.
Huge recommendation. It's
That's on at the John Marr.
Probably a short run, is it? At the
It's on until June the 6th, so yeah, you've got to catch it fast. But 4 of the best performances I have ever seen, and a really superb script. So
you've probably got a moment just to mention something else.
Yeah, Royal Ballet. It's just finishing up its run of Alchemies by Wayne McGregor, so just for people that like a little bit of arts and fartsiness. It's 3 modern pieces, somewhat experimental. It didn't massively work for me. We got a little trailer to get people in the idea, because it looks gorgeous at least.
Looks lovely.
It's stunningly staged, absolutely stunningly staged, but it's 3 non-narrative pieces, and I really feel you have to grip an audience, and I did sort of, my concentration wavered a bit. I don't think it necessarily suits the Royal Ballet sometimes, his choreography. It's very modern, quite angular, and for me, it's not one of their stronger points, although I did love his Woolf works about Virginia Woolf. But yes, ballet lovers and purists and completists, it's still a marvellous evening at the Royal Ballet.
I wonder whether Rafa would like to do a little turn for us.
Well, so we can see his full... Look at that. What a handsome boy.
He's got a denim element to his costume today.
Yeah, dungarees.
So do you. Very good. Thank you very much indeed, Stefan Curiel.
My pleasure.
Coming up next, can studying classical music be a viable apprenticeship model for young people? Julia Pearson from the Surrey Hills Music Festival certainly thinks so, and she'll join me to explain how youngsters benefit from learning classical music. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Good afternoon. The latest headlines from the GB newsroom. We'll start with some breaking news. Avon and Somerset police have declared a major incident after 2 people have died in a house explosion in Bristol this morning. The cause is being treated as suspicious but not terror-related. The Prime Minister is urging his party to be more united and avoid descending into what he's called political infighting amid speculation his rivals are plotting a leadership challenge. Meanwhile, it's reported Labour's ruling body, the NEC, are no longer prepared to block Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham from returning to Parliament after he was stopped from running in the Gorton and Denton by-election. It's reported former Royal Marines and veterans of the Parachute Regiment have been hired to protect synagogues and Jewish schools amid a rise in anti-Semitic attacks. 2 women have died after a dinghy carrying 65 migrants sank off the French coast overnight. A rescue operation involving a taxi boat saw dozens of people trying to scramble on board. And it's been revealed the Prince of Wales is one of the UK's top taxpayers, submitting around £7 million in income tax every year. Those are your latest headlines. I'll be back with more at 1 o'clock.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Hello, good morning and welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast. A lot of cloud across the UK through today, but some glimmers of sunshine at times, but that may trigger 1 or 2 heavy, possibly thundery showers. Low pressure dominating the weather pattern at the moment. Not many isobars on the chart, meaning those showers that do develop will be slow moving. But looking at the picture for the rest of Sunday, a lot of cloud across the UK, areas of rain, particularly across northeast England. It will remain wet here clear for much of the day. Showery rain across southern parts of England and Wales, and some of these showers turning heavy later on in the afternoon. The odd rumble of thunder possible. In any brighter breaks, up to 20 degrees towards London. Cold across northern Scotland, 9 or 10 degrees here, so temperatures below average for the time of year. Into the evening time, a lot of cloud across Scotland, but there could be a few glimmers of sunshine around some western coasts. Over the hills, some drizzle and hill fog in places, temperatures 11 or 12 degrees. A similar picture across Northern Ireland, a lot of cloud, the rain still falling across northeast England, and those heavy showers across southern parts of England and Wales continue, could lead to 1 or 2 tricky travelling conditions in places. Those showers drift a little further northwards as we move through the evening, but overnight they should start to ease in intensity. But a lot of cloud across the UK overnight means temperatures will hold up around 9 or 10 degrees, but some clear skies across northern Scotland here. Temperatures could fall close to freezing in the countryside, so a touch of frost possible here. But it does mean a fairly cloudy start to Bank Holiday Monday. Some showery outbreaks of rain across parts of Wales, the Midlands, but a lot of dry weather to come. Some sunny spells in places too, but that may trigger 1 or 2 heavy showers again across southern parts of England and Wales, which could be on the thundery side. Some rain across northern Scotland, and temperatures a little lower compared to the weekend highs, around 17 or 18 degrees.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. The Surrey Hills International Music Festival begins next week, featuring concerts, talks and world-class musicians. This year's programme includes award-winning vocal ensemble Tenebrae, Dame Sarah Connolly, the Julian Bliss Quintet and the Sitkovetsky Trio. But the festival doesn't just highlight renowned stars, it's also a key to mentoring the next generation of musicians, emphasising that classical music can be a serious apprenticeship model for young people. With me now is the trustee of the Surrey Hills International Music Festival, Julia Pearson. Julia, welcome back.
Thank you so much, Michael.
So you're beginning on Tuesday?
Yes, the festival begins on Tuesday with a lunchtime concert, and this provides a performance platform for emerging artists, which is an incredibly important aspect of why we exist.
What is an emerging artist? A young person?
An emerging artist is a young person who has had conservatoire training, who wants to make a professional career, but the one thing that young graduates need, of course, is the opportunity to perform and to perform to a live audience. And so our festival, like other festivals, makes it a really high priority to provide those opportunities to help those young musicians on with their careers. The performers this Tuesday, which is at West Horsley Place, this beautiful Elizabethan house that used to belong to the Duchess of Roxburgh, inherited by Bamber Gascoigne, has a beautiful Tudor stone hall, and Flute and Frets is a duo of 2 young musicians who are now increasingly internationally known, who are going to perform La Dolce Vita, which is basically a pathway through from early music to contemporary music. And we also have a professor of history, also a TV personality, Katie Hamilton, who's going to be giving a talk about the history of music before Flutes and Frets play their programme. So that's going to be a beautiful beginning. My husband, Henry, is going to lead a walk before that. So we love to combine in the daytime concerts a walk in our Surrey Hills landscape and then provide an opportunity for these young people to perform.
It stands to reason that an emerging artist having the opportunity to perform in public with all the discipline that involves and so on is going to be helped in his or her career. Have you seen outstanding examples of this in your experience?
Well, we have. There is, for example, a young double bass player called Will Durden. Will Durden was a graduate of the Yehudi Menuhin School. He was one of our early young emerging artists. It's extremely unusual for anybody to make a solo career out of a double bass. You know, huge instruments. But Will Durden has both the personality and the genius to do that. So he has had the opportunity to catch the eye of some promoters of some festivals, both here in the UK and internationally. And Will Durden, as a very young 20-something-year-old, excuse me, is going on to perform with extraordinary soloists around the world. He's, for example, at Wigmore with Ksenia Sidorova. So that's a very good example. From the younger end, if I can mention now, the String Scheme, which the festival, of course, is a registered charity. And the String Scheme is a strings program that we finance through the subscription of our friends of the festival, and is presented by the Royal Grammar School. And we provide professional weekly string education. So peripatetic music teachers go into 2 state primary schools, and they give weekly lessons to Year 4 students, all the students. And in this particular school, it's a triple entry, so almost 100 kids for a whole year.
That is extraordinary. When you're dealing with emerging artists, so people who show a great deal of promise, is it important to prepare them both for the possibility of success and the possibility of failure? It's just that it just strikes me that the number of musicians who can get to the top is very limited, and they will have stellar careers. But for many others, it may be a life of drudgery or it may be a life of disappointments. Does one have to prepare them for that too?
Well, you're right. I mean, the top of the triangle is very narrow, and we are, as a festival, delighted to help very talented musicians with their careers. It's not really the job of the festival to act as counsellors.
Right.
It is our job to help them, if necessary, strengthen their organisational skills, understand about the importance of timing, of turning up on time, of being, you know. So those are practical skills that if we need to add a little bit, that's where we can help with them. But fundamentally, it's the conservatoires that do take a lot of time beyond the music education to help young musicians understand that they do need additional skills just beyond their genius performance skills. But for the festival, we're there to provide the performance platform.
And when your peripatetic teachers go into a state school and teach everyone...
Yes, in the year.
In the year. I mean, clearly, you know, if 1 or 2 people from that year showed promise, that might be a very, very good result. Are there benefits to those who at the end of that don't show promise? Have they benefited from, for a moment, encountering a stringed instrument?
I would like to be able to give you endless quotes from the head teachers at Boxgrove and at Sandfields. The feedback from the school staff is phenomenal. At the end of the year, they are able to say, these are children who are now able to concentrate longer, who understand about teamwork, who understand about care of an instrument, who understand about preparation and doing their homework, because they need to perform ultimately at the end of each term in a concert in front of parents. And so there are tremendous social advantages, social cohesion, team player, and also cognitive skills too.
Just to finish, people obviously can and should be buying tickets. What is your website?
Our website is www.shimf.co.uk.
Oh, SHIMF. So that's Surrey
Hills International Music
Festival, which becomes SHIMF.
Yes.
Thank you very much. May you have the most wonderful festival in Dorking.
In Guildford, Stoke Dagenham, West Horsley, and Betchworth. Thank you very much, Michael.
That's illustrated to us what Surrey Hills means. Thank you very much indeed, Julia Pearson. Coming up next.
Being able to do all of this work whilst protecting the structure of the ship, that's been an endless challenge.
The 10-year conservation project for HMS Victory is firmly underway. We'll be finding out the details next. This is Sunday with Michael Portillo, only on GB News.
Be nice to escape the grey.
Clear skies, here we come.
As clear as our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there. A very unsettled spell across southern parts of Europe with some heavy showers and also some thunderstorms. These could be quite intense at times with some frequent lightning and some squally winds, particularly across northern parts of Spain, southern parts of France, also parts of Italy could see some heavy and intense thunderstorms. But elsewhere across Italy, Sicily and also parts of Greece, it should be mostly dry, plenty of sunshine. Still seeing some showers into next week, but feeling warm in the sunshine, temperatures in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, for competitors, the race will be difficult, of course, as it always is. But will it be difficult for Fiona Betts?
No, that's her. If you're watching on the television,
it's a massive helicopter.
She's in a helicopter.
Yeah.
If you're listening on the radio, they've sort of built a helicopter around her. At least her head is sticking out the top, and her legs out the bottom.
Yes.
But apparently, it gets very hot inside that.
28 marathons, and you only. What, am I right in thinking you only started running about 10 years or so ago?
Probably slightly under that, to be honest. When I had a bit more time on my hands, I think at the ripe old age of 47, I started to get into marathon running.
Now, we're looking at you now. You're wearing a yellow T-shirt, but behind you, there looks like a bit of a yellow helicopter. You're not in it, are you, at the moment? Can't quite see.
Not at the moment, no.
Right.
No. I've just rested on the bed behind me, but it looks like a duck when it's upside down for those people who can't.
Looks a bit weird.
So who do you raise money for with the helicopter?
So I'm supporting Air Ambulances UK, and they look after the 21 air ambulance charities across the UK, so Scotland, Wales, and all of the other independent charities that there are.
What made you think of even running, first of all, and then running as a helicopter? I mean, you were obviously inspired by watching the air ambulance, were you?
Absolutely. So I've enjoyed running because being out in the fresh air is really good for your mental health, makes you feel a lot better. And I thought it'd be really cool to be a world record holder, and couldn't find a costume that I could run fast enough in. And then when I saw the air ambulance land and I checked to see if there was a record for a helicopter, there actually wasn't a female record. So 3 years ago, I attempted and set the Guinness World Record for the fastest 3D aircraft.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Sunday with Michael Portillo. In Portsmouth, HMS Victory has entered the next phase of the big repair. meaning that a view that's been familiar for generations has suddenly changed because the towering masts that define Nelson's flagship have been removed, and it's part of a £42 million project to preserve the ship for decades to come. Our reporter Isabel Fekwalak went to take a look.
This is the ship where Nelson led the fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar in 1805 and where he was fatally wounded. More than 250 years after she was launched, the world's oldest commissioned warship is still being carefully protected. This week, the masts that have defined her silhouette for more than a century have come down.
This piece of work has taken months and months of planning. It's been very detailed. The masts are a Victorian wrought iron construction. They've obviously experienced a lot of weathering over the last century. They do need some repair work, so we do need to get them out. We don't believe we can deliver that safely in situ. Being able to do all of this work whilst protecting the structure of the ship, that's been an endless challenge. So I think just working on a vessel like this is endlessly challenging, but I think what we're doing at the moment is the most challenging.
The lifts were planned earlier this week, but strong winds caused delay. Now they're down though, engineers can build a vast scaffold structure around the ship, enclosing her as part of the big repair to stop gradual sagging and decay of the hull. That conservation work is expected to continue right through to 2033. This phase has taken a 750-ton crane, months of planning, and millimetre-perfect control to lower centuries-old timber safely onto the dockside.
As we took the tension in the crane hook and started to kind of de-weight the mast from the ship, as it were, we could visibly see and hear those timbers relaxing as the weight was coming off. The mast's been sat on those timbers since 1894. One of the really impressive things about this is that now people can see the mast in its entirety. So when it's sat down on these trestles now, you can see the full length of it and see all the different coloured paint schemes throughout the ship. So it's like a kaleidoscope as we go down the ship.
Britain's most famous warship that's been here for centuries now looks unfamiliar, but it's to ensure she's still standing for generations to come. Isabel Fekwalak, GB News, Portsmouth.
Joining me now is the military historian Peter Caddick-Adams. Peter, welcome to GB News. Shall we start by reminding people why HMS Victory is famous, why we care about HMS Victory, and why she is still commissioned?
Michael, that's a very good question. HMS Victory was the flagship of Admiral Lord Nelson, and Britain's foremost victory against the French in the Napoleonic Wars was in October 1805, when commanding from HMS Victory, a British squadron attacked off Cape Trafalgar the French and Spanish combined fleets and had a runaway victory. But in the moment of triumph, a musket ball struck Lord Nelson. He was carried below and he died on HMS Victory about 3 hours after the final sort of blow. So we associate HMS Victory with the Royal Navy's most famous commander, with its most famous victory, and the fact that he died on board the ship and it was brought back to England after, badly damaged actually, after the victory, and has been in Portsmouth ever since.
We've been talking about soft power today because we've been talking about the role of His Majesty the King. But actually, soft power is represented by HMS Victory as well. I don't know whether people would know this, but for example, when I was Secretary of State for Defence, I had the privilege of being able to entertain in the Admiral's cabin. So that is to say, the place where Lord Nelson spent the last evening and night of his life. And foreign dignitaries would, I mean, they would give anything for the privilege of coming to dine on HMS Victory. You tour the ship, of course, you see where all the decks of the ship, you see the armaments that it had, you observe the masts, and then you settle down to dinner in the Admiral's cabin. And that is, as I say, an extraordinary privilege and a very good example of soft power. So it's not just British people who are wowed by HMS Victory, it's visiting dignitaries from other countries too.
I too have had that pleasure and privilege of dining aboard her. And I was in the company of a visiting French admiral. And I mean, he was so excited because they have no equivalent in France. And it gave you an immediate feel of what maritime warfare was like around about 250 years ago, and that there's really no other comparable ship anywhere in the world that gives you that sense, especially when you go down deck after deck and see how gloomy it was. And I mean, you know, there's this ship. It was home to 850 people at the height of the battle.
Yes, and of course the battle, although glorious and victorious, absolutely horrifying. One has to imagine the air full of hot metal flying from other ships, any blow being lethal, people being struck down all around you, and somehow you have to keep doing your duty, you have to keep pulling your gun into position, firing and repeating the process again and again with mayhem all around you. Extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, I think a visit to HMS Victory, which is an absolute must. Even today, you can see her under the scaffolding. And in fact, they've made a great play and focus on what they call the big repair, which is a 10-year refurbishment of the ship. I mean, really, we celebrate a lot of different aspects of Britishness through her construction, never mind her military history and her command by Nelson. I mean, manufactured of, you know, almost 5,000 oak trees. The replacement oaks actually will have to come from France. So I'm sure Nelson will be very happy in some sort of way that his ship is still doing good service. And, you know, it attracts anything up to 500,000 visitors a year. The magic is there. And while they're refurbishing her, you can see actually the whole story of the refurbishment, because she's been replaced and repaired almost ever since she went into dry dock, and quite a lot before, because the wood doesn't last. And so now there's another story in today's British craftsmen who are repairing her, and in fact, you know, the technicians who removed the last of the masts the other night. You know, that's a triumph of technical engineering. So her story carries on, and every aspect of it is a sort of pinnacle of British engineering and maritime triumph.
Peter, thank you very much. I feel very sorry for those who over the next 10 years will not be able to see HMS Victory with her mast, but there we are. That brings us to the end of the programme. Thanks to all my guests for joining me today. It's been a great programme full of interesting conversation. Coming up next is Dawn Neeson. Dawn, what's coming up on your show, please?
Michael, I love the way you say Dawn. No one else says it quite like that. Brilliant show, as always, Michael. And we've got a cracker coming up for you as well, including an exclusive sit-down chat with the wonderful Graham Linehan about what he's been through recently. And basically, well, you need to watch it. It's going to be absolutely brilliant. And we're also talking about the migrants crossing the channel at this very minute, looking for another record weekend of them. All of that coming up after your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, welcome to your latest GB News weather from the Met Office, and it stays largely cloudy over the next few days. There'll be spells of rain, which could be heavy at times, but there will be spells of sunshine too. Low pressure still dominating at the moment. It's a slack area of low pressure, slowly moving away, and it does mean not many isobars on the chart, indicating light winds throughout the next few days, but a lot of cloud across the UK, slow-moving areas of showery rain as we head through the rest of Sunday, and into the early hours it does remain on the cloudy side as well. 1 or 2 spots of rain still under any clear spells across northern Scotland, temperatures dipping to low single figures, but the vast majority of us holding up between 7 and 10 degrees. But it does mean a rather grey start to Monday morning, some drizzle in places, some hill fog too. Northern Scotland, winds do increase a little bit here for a time as some showers pass on by, and temperatures around 6 or 7 degrees, but some spells of sunshine which may also extend and into parts of Northern Ireland as well. Perhaps even Northern England seeing a few glimmers of brightness, but much of England cloudy and grey and damp. Southern counties may be also seeing some spells of sunshine to start bank holiday Monday. The risk of showers increases as we go through Monday itself, particularly across southern parts of Wales, central southern England. One of these or two of these showers could be on the heavy side. The odd rumble of thunder is possible, and further showery rain across the Highlands as well. But the vast majority will be dry, and perhaps some bright spells developing at times, lifting temperatures to 15 to 18 degrees. So in any bright breaks, feeling a little on the warm side and rather humid air as well. Into the evening time, showers continue, perhaps becoming a little more widespread across parts of Scotland, and then generally staying mixed as we head through the week. There'll be some rain at times, but a lot of dry weather too. Temperatures, though, do start to fall away.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead. Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and count.